My name is Nikki Salter, and I am a residential mortgage loan officer in San Antonio. I'm also a business coach for the Core Training, which is a real estate and lending coaching company, business coaching
Mhm.
company. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years. So I'm in for 19 years. I'm 38. So I'm almost at the point where I've been doing it longer than I haven't, which is insane. At 17, like this day's going to come. You're going to remember there's going to be a day
Mhm.
where you're doing something longer than you haven't been. And I love what I do. There was not anything else that I would rather be doing more than this. And I'm super passionate about it. I wake up every day. I mean, I have bad days. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
I have days where I don't want to get up and like do what I do or go to work or whatever, but it just doesn't happen very often. And
Mhm.
I never actually act on it. I mean, I just, like I get up and I come in but there's so many more great days than there are bad days. So one of the things that I would tell you is whatever it is that you decide to do,
Mhm.
you've got to love it that much or you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like hands down, if you don't love it that much, you should be doing something else or
Mhm.
looking for something else.
Mhm.
Like maybe, hey, this is means to an end. So I'm going to do this for now until I find like that thing that I'm passionate about and just keep trying until you find it. Um, but so I went to work I'll spare you the long story, but I went to work at a mortgage company. So I was working at a real estate company, like answering the phones and doing that. And I looked around and there were these people there at the real estate company that had like expensive cars and nice watches and hot wives. And like they didn't seem like they worked that much. I'm like, what do they do? Who are those people? Like obviously they're successful, but they're always like going to lunch with their wives or zipping around in their fancy cars. And the agent said, oh, that's the mortgage company. And I'm like, I want to do that, right? Like I was 19
Yeah.
years old. I didn't have any money. I was still in school. Like, I just wanted to make some money. And I'm thinking, okay, these people don't seem like they're like that much better than me
Mhm.
and they're doing it. So surely I could do it. So truth is I started asking like, hey, how do you do this at your job? How do you do this? What does your checklist look like? What is this? I literally learned just enough mortgage lingo to convince somebody to hire me, even though I had no idea what I was doing. So I went to work for a mortgage company, got hired on the operations side to answer the phone, set up loan files, and literally the rest kind of is history. Just, one thing happened to the next. And I just asked everybody there, hey, what does your job entail? What do you do? How do you do what you do? I asked lots and lots and lots of questions. I love asking questions. I do not like feeling dumb. I like to like be in control and in charge. And I
Mhm.
can't do that if I don't know the answer to things, right? So like I always ask a lot of questions and I ask them of anybody who knows anything that I don't know something about, I ask them because it's more than what I know. Maybe they're not the expert, but they're more of an expert than me, right? And then just keep learning. And I think that's something that I've done along the way too, is I look in any room that I'm in, who's the expert? If I'm at a
Mhm.
craps table, who has the most chips? Right?
Mhm.
Like that's how my brain works, right? And so like when I go, that's how I learned how to play craps, right? I went to who at the table has the most chips. I'm just going to copy what they do for a while until I figure it out,
Mhm.
right? It was the
Yeah.
same thing with my mortgage career. It was not any more complicated than that. Like I just, hey, who's closing the most loans? Who is, knows, has the most knowledge? Who, and any that just evolved to wanting to have my own team. I moved into the sales side probably around, let's see, probably 11 years into my career, maybe 10 or 11 years into the mortgage career. I moved into the sales side because I really
Mhm.
haven't been in sales as long as it seems like I have been. But so a 19-year mortgage career, I was in the operations side for about the first 10 years. And then started loving that part. And now, and then have a branch and, got my own loan officers, have my own big production team, work and am a part of a really great mortgage company here in San Antonio and just love every bit of it. Wouldn't take any of it back. And I do have two kids. So I have a 4.5-year old and then I have a 6-month old too. I do still work full time. People ask me that, do you work full time or do you work from home?
Mhm.
No, I still work full time and I don't work from home. I'm still, I'm at my office. And I love it. And we just, firm on boundaries and that way I get to enjoy more than just one thing.
Mhm.
Um, my 17-year-old self.
Yeah.
I would tell myself, because see, I wouldn't take any of it back.
Yeah, well, if there's something that maybe an experience you've gone through that maybe if you had known like a little piece of information earlier, it would have saved you like a lot of more time or energy or something, or you'd be like, hey, you're gonna go through a lot of challenges. These are some of the things that you're gonna have to maybe go through. These are some things that you could probably avoid if you had known something like this.
Yeah. So I would say, um, I would tell myself, um, to be nice to myself. I would
Mm-hmm.
say, be nice to yourself because it's all going to be okay. I would say, and it's all going to be okay. And I also would have, I mean, I'm such a believer in timing and
Mm-hmm.
that just things are available when we're ready.
Yeah.
And opportunities are available when we're ready. So I would love to say dream bigger earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I would have been ready and prepared for it because when I
Sure.
started to dream bigger was when I was ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
But from a simple standpoint, without letting my brain go too much down the rabbit hole, I would say dream bigger earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I wish, like, I genuinely believe now that when we tell kids growing up, or people in general, but mostly kids, like, hey, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up,
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I had believed that
Mm-hmm.
because it is true. And you can accomplish anything you want that you put your mind to. It is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely true. I have seen miracles come through. I've seen like just amazing experiences and things that I never thought I would see happen. And it starts with thinking it up, and then a
Mm-hmm.
belief system behind it, and then a why not me? Hey, if so and so can do it, why not me? And I always had the why not me, but it was more of a something to prove than it
Sure.
was being excited about the potential to gain and what could be.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I could give myself advice that would have worked, I would
Mm-hmm.
have said dream bigger earlier. But at 17, like, really what I needed to hear probably from my future self is, hey, your parents are right. About 95% of the stuff they tell you,
Yeah.
they're right. And the other 5%, they're still right. You just have to learn it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know that I would have been able to tell myself, dream bigger earlier, but that's, I would say, hey, believe in yourself earlier. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be okay, so go for it. Like, jump out of the window, build a parachute on the way down. It's all gonna be fine. And I definitely would, but I wouldn't take back the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that I had either. And I
Yeah.
think also, if I could get someone your age to buy into a belief system too, it would be that there is a lesson and a purpose and a value in
Mm-hmm.
every experience and everything that you do and everything that you go through, everything that happens to you and everything that happens for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a value to it and there's a reason if you are seeking it and you're open to it. So I would treat every single thing as a
Mm-hmm.
learning opportunity. Just what can I take from this? Even if it's just, whoa, I didn't like that. I'm not going to do that again. Doesn't matter what it is, take something for it, and then none of it is in vain. And you look up 20 years later and you say, I'm grateful for the timing because it all worked
Mm-hmm.
out just fine. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so if you, so there might be some 17-year-olds out there, maybe they don't want to go down the traditional college path.
sure.
Maybe they want to do something else, but maybe they don't know what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to be on my own. Is there anything that you would say to them being like, hey, like when you're done watching this, this is like the first thing that you can start. Maybe if you don't know, but definitely this is something you need to learn, something you need to read, something you need to absorb if you want to do anything on your own.
So I am one of the I'm on team. Hey, you don't have to go to college to be successful. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 100%. I mean, it's not something that I openly advertise because I do
Sure.
think that so many kids need it, and so,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not a requirement. And whether you go to school or not, you have to be obsessed with learning. You have
Mm-hmm.
to be obsessed with making yourself better. You have to be obsessed with educating yourself and not being unsatisfied, but just wanting to grow. Not necessarily. maybe you're not obsessed with making money. Okay, cool. But be obsessed with growing, be obsessed with, maybe that's growing your hobbies. It doesn't matter, but be like, want to learn, want to absorb. Like, we lose so much of that sponge as we get older, I mean, you don't know that yet, but like as a kid, you just learn everything. You just soak it all in and you use all of it. Like my 4-year-old comes home, he tells me about the life stages of a frog and the parts of a penguin and like how to color the right way and the wrong way. He has no problem correcting me and telling me the wrong way to color. But like, and then we get older and we stop doing that, right? We don't want to learn. We just start going into this mundane over and over, thing. Don't do that. And that doesn't, that's whether you go to school or not, but especially if you don't go to school, work hard. I mean, I think your advice, if you go to college or if you don't go to college, is the same. Work hard, work harder than the people around you, educate yourself, be obsessed with growth, and be obsessed with having the best life that you can have. And it doesn't matter what you do, if that's like at the root of who you are and what you're doing, it doesn't matter. I don't think that college is a requirement. And there's a lot of people that would tell you the same because their path has been the same. But the hard work and the grit, I think people think that college and grit, like that one could replace the other. It's not. College is an experience. To me, it's more of like a socialization and an exposure to a different way of doing things. It's not necessarily, and it may better prepare some people and the people who need it for different certain circumstances and opportunities, just a little bit more growth and a little bit more exposure to people and systems and things like that. But I mean, it's hard work. It's hard work. It's grit. It's focus, and it's wanting to grow that ends up propelling people in the end, not which college they went to or their major, unless it's something that's specific. Obviously, I don't want a doctor working on me that didn't spend a lot of time in medical school. Don't get me wrong. Right? but outside of that, I mean, like, I don't, I mean, like a lot of the other people that I would hire to do things, I don't necessarily feel that way about. I need them to be an expert in their field.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important as well. Is there anything you'd like to say just to wrap it up before someone watches this, right? And if you're like, okay, well, if you had any one takeaway from this, if you had any one thing that you the most, I'd say, applicable to life, what would you say?
So, yeah, stay in the ring. Don't get out of the fight. Because as long as you're in the ring and you're fighting and you're getting back up every single time you get knocked down, don't get knocked out, and stay in the ring. I mean, nothing is over unless you give up. And too many people, they exercise the quitting muscle instead of exercising the just keep getting up and getting your butt kicked muscle instead, because eventually you get back up and then you're doing the butt kicking. And then somebody comes in and kicks your butt again. And you just don't quit. You keep going until the day that you're finished doing whatever it is that you're doing. And we should be that way with everything. And whatever it is that you are, it's okay. Just work to be the best version of whatever it is that you want to be and define who the person is that you want to be. And then every day do a little bit of something to be that person. Like the end or the proverbial end, right? And who we become is the compound effect of inches, small decisions every day over time. And that's who we turn out to be. And if at the very beginning you say, I want to be a person who does this, I want to be a person who does that, and then everything a little bit every day, you just do a little bit every day, you're going to look up in 5 years and say, man, I'm glad I did that 5 years ago. Whatever that is, and whatever it is that you want or you want to have or you want to be or do, you just have to start right now. Like the time's going to pass anyways.
Yeah.
So like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's going to pass anyways. So what do you want to do today that in 20 years you say, man, I'm glad I did that back then. Do it now.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. The younger you start, the earlier you start, definitely it ends up catching up to you in life. Definitely helps.
I read this thing the other day that said the best day to have done something was 10 years ago. The second best day is today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's so brilliant. Like, yes,
Yeah.
everybody says, oh, 10 years ago, if I had only, or if I was your age, if I had only known this or that. But you know what?
Hmm.
Cool, do it today.
Yeah.
It's the second best day.
Hmm. That's a great thing. It's a great quote. Thank you so much for sharing. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I really want to thank you for taking the time.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. My dad was telling me today, he was like, um, that when he sees you and he sees all your success, that's all he would want for me. And how he sees, and how when he looks at me, he looks at you, he really wants that for me. And he really looks up to you, and he really appreciates you. So I really appreciate you talking to me. And I really hope to meet that expectation that you've set for him. So I
There you
really
go.
appreciate it.
I'm telling you, I love it. I can't wait to see in 20 years and to go, man, look at what he did.
Thank you so much. I
Guys,
appreciate it. Have a
have a good
great day.
weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you.